All right, that is not our in-studio audience. It's just the three of us. Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of Teen Talk, a podcast where we get a chance to dive into mental health from the perspective of today's youth, and we will be discussing real-life mental health problems and talking about how mental health affects our teens. Each podcast will have teens from our community talking about their mental health and wellness, bringing awareness in an anonymous format, unfiltered and with current issues. So let's get a chance to really kind of introduce my lovely co-host with the mostest, Jessica Walling. Welcome to the show.
Well, I thank you, Dalen. I'm excited to be here and bring awareness to these wonderful topics that we have been discussing throughout all of our podcasts here and really diving in deep. But I cannot start without introducing my enthusiastic, very, very enthusiastic co-host, Mr. Dalen Boyd.
Oh, whoa, what? Right here. Hey, I love doing this. I have learned so much talking with the teens that we've had in. And but before we get started, let me kind of read a disclaimer here. Want to encourage everyone to be aware of their feelings on mental health issues and know that the topics we discuss are pretty heavy and can be triggering for those listening. And that listeners should be conscious of their own mental health needs and seek help if needed. This podcast is not meant to be therapy or advice to the listener. And if you feel you need support, please reach out to Nexus. If we can't help you, we can help you find services and offer referrals to your local area. Our website is www.nexusYFS.org. Again, that's www.nexusYFS.org. And our phone number is 209-257-1980, extension 101 to reach the therapy department. And if you find yourself in a psychiatric emergency, please dial 911, or you can call the new number for suicide emergencies, which is 988. You can also text to the number 741-741 and then put in your message, and you will get a counselor, a crisis counselor, to be able to help you with some stuff. So,
Dalen.
Oh.
You have said that, you feel like texting can be easier. Maybe say a little so that people know what that is good
Okay,
for.
so I have an issue reaching out verbally. I'm talking about me personally.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
an issue reaching out verbally with people.
Yeah.
Arguing, talking about important things. I keep stuff bottled up myself. That's a personal issue that I have. And I often find it easier to text. Yeah. And so I will be able to talk because there's this thing called getting flooded, right? Mm-hmm. And not all men, but typically men will shut down when they're confronted. Like let's say you've got, a spouse or something like that, and you get really upset and you get worked up, and then sometimes you just realize it's better to just chill out and not talk at all, and so we shut down. Yeah. And sometimes when you're arguing or you're dealing with the crisis, you can't think fast enough because there's a part of your brain that's kicking on that's kind of managing all of your emotion, and it doesn't allow for the part of your brain that logically thinks about things. It takes that offline.
Absolutely.
And so it's really hard to discuss things when you're really worked up. And I find that when I text, mm-hmm. there's that pause. You send the text, the other person on the other end is reading it. Now they respond, and then you get to read what they say, and then there's another pause. So it gives us a chance to reflect before we say something horrible.
And there's also that aspect of anonymity.
Yeah.
That safety of...
That's a double-edged sword, though.
It is, but it is also something really important that people just feel, I don't have to really,
Yeah, you're not looking at somebody's face. You're
right.
not looking at the pain. You're not looking at their anger. Yeah, you're just reflecting on words.
Right.
But there's also not the nuances of, wow, I just really hurt that person's feelings, or, oh, I said something and it went a different way.
In text message.
Yeah.
But for this format, being able to reach out to a counselor...
Oh, right.
Right. The anonymity is important, right?
Sure.
Sometimes it's easier to say, I am screaming inside via text than it is to say, hey, Dalen, can I sit on your couch because I'm screaming inside and I need to talk to you, and then look at you in the face.
Way harder to do.
Exactly. And I think our guest over here can probably relate to that. Understand that sometimes it's not fun to sit and talk, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So to reach a crisis counselor, you type in where you put in a phone number, you type in 741-741.
Yeah.
And then you go to the message and you're like, hey, I need some help. and
Absolutely.
a crisis counselor will text back.
Yeah.
And then you
it's
can
a
start
great
the process.
system. It's a great system. Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that because I think a lot of people, well, the weird thing is not everybody texts to non-normal phone numbers, right? So there's
Yeah, that's true.
209-257-1980, right?
Right.
That's not a text line, but
Right.
you're used to texting people and there's weird, like texting in radio stations and things like that. They've got funky numbers like 741-741 to reach a crisis counselor.
Yeah.
So that is the number.
That is the number.
Where
and
you put
it
in
does
the phone
work.
number.
Yes.
741-741.
Yep.
And then
Absolutely.
text. Okay. So let's get down to business. We have Phoebe back in the office today, into our studio. And she had talked last time about self-harm. So that was kind of our topic.
That was.
And there was a lot of really cool insights from your point of view, Phoebe. And so I wanted to kind of start off with, because somebody might be seeing or listening to this podcast for the first one, and they don't know your backstory. They don't know what you just shared. And yes, you can go back and listen to the previous podcast.
Absolutely.
But can you give a brief description of kind of what you're going through?
Yeah. I'm a 16-year-old girl who struggles with self-harm and struggles with communicating that self-harm and also feeling like I've been treated differently since people have found out I self-harm. And I struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think today we really want to, kind of dive into a little more about getting help with that self-harm and what that looks like. And, a lot of teens don't really know what therapy is. So before you started therapy, what did you think about it?
I did not want to do therapy because I don't like talking about my feelings. And I thought that I tried it once before in middle school and it just wasn't for this session that we had. I was just quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really worth the money and stuff like that.
Okay.
So now that you've started therapy again, first of all, was it your choice?
No.
No. So can you maybe tell our listeners a little what that felt like, where you didn't really have the choice, but you're here. So.
Well, I was not very enthusiastic about it. I just didn't feel the need to talk to anyone, and let alone a random person.
Did you hear that? I'm random.
Well, no.
No, you're good. You're good. I think it's great. I think talking to someone that is not in your inner circle is something very prevalent and something that I actually like about therapy. So I enjoy that topic.
So did you feel when you were talking to Jess, did you feel that you were able to talk to somebody who wasn't judging you?
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
It felt like I was able to be heard and I could say what I wanted and she wouldn't bring up anything else or oh, well, actually this is worse than that or stuff like that.
Okay.
And we would just be talking about me and what was wrong with me.
And that's way different than talking to your parents, right?
Yeah, I've found that talking with my parents, they can bring up a lot of different things like, at least you're not doing this, or at least you're not doing that, and that's not good to talk to your kids about, I feel like, because you shouldn't lessen what they're going through. It just makes it even worse. And when my mom told me that it's not as bad, it just made me feel like she didn't really care.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's really, really heavy. The devaluing of someone's pain and trauma. And self-harm, that is a trauma. That is something that you're experiencing and that you're going through. And I think it's important that teens know that therapy isn't just sitting across from some random person talking. It's about finding that safe place and that validation, which is what I'm hearing from you, is that you feel like there's validation in being able to say, this is about me and I'm the only concern here. And that's something that you're looking for in your parental relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the first session. You're like, I don't want to be here. Then you sit across from a stranger, and then you leave. What changed? Like, what was your thought process going like, oh, wow, that just happened, and now this is my perspective. So what was that?
Well, I didn't really feel any different. I just kind of left feeling like weird because I don't usually talk about my feelings. I felt kind of uncomfortable, but it's become a little bit more normal now.
Okay.
I mean, I've had 2 other therapists before this, so I know how it feels, but...
So tell us about how it feels to you then. Give us your unique perspective.
It feels awkward, and I feel like it's like a never-ending road that won't eventually help because you can't fix anything right away. It takes longer, especially self-harm, and I feel like I'm an impatient person, so I just sit down for one session and I don't feel anything different, and then I want to like stop therapy because I didn't feel anything different, but really I need to give it time, and I can't just let one session decide how therapy would go.
Dropping bombs.
I want to say that's big. Look at that maturity. Oh my
Dropping
goodness.
bombs. So what I heard you say is that you need to give it time, and that one session of therapy doesn't fix anything.
Yeah.
And you're impatient and you want it to, but now you've kind of sat in that whole like, I need to keep coming back and keep working on this. It's going to be a long road.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to hear that.
I agree.
Therapy is it's not a quick fix. Depending on how complicated the issues are and how willing to work on things and how much time you put in. So here's a question for you. So there's therapy sessions last anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the type of therapist, the type of therapy, and how old you are. There's shorter sessions for younger children. And when you are sitting in a session and you realize it's like, I'm now spending a bunch of time talking about myself. What goes through your head in that session? Like, is this taking too long? Do I just want this to be fixed right away? Because therapy is taking a while, where I keep talking about this. What are some insights that you have by doing therapy over the course of time?
Well, first off, I think when I sit in a room and just talk about myself, I feel like I'm being very self-centered. And I don't think I always struggle with like social anxiety and thinking that people will think I'm like only caring about myself or like seeking out attention and stuff like that. And that's how therapy kind of makes me feel, which I don't like. But I also think that it is hard to sit through a long session and then come back like the next week and have it just be the same thing every week. And you won't really see any changes right away. And that can make some people want to stop therapy, but I think that it's important to keep trying even if it's difficult.
And so what do you work on outside of therapy? Is there any part of your therapy where it's like, oh, I'm going to work on this at home on my own time? Or is everything that you work on right now just in therapy?
Right now it's just in therapy, but I do draw on my own time, which is one of my coping mechanisms. So.
Okay. And you said that you had a couple therapists before. Now you're seeing Jessica. What have you learned about yourself, and have you noticed any changes from the start of therapy till now?
Well, I've learned that I've matured and I can now talk more about my feelings. And I also learned that I prefer talking in person than online, like over Zoom.
Okay. And have you seen any benefits towards the issues that you're working on? And what have been those benefits, if you've had any? I mean, there's the talking in person and you're more comfortable with that. But
I think the benefits are having a trusted adult that I can reach out to that's near me and doesn't live like states away.
okay, like a Zoom therapist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what impact has therapy had on the issue of self-harm for you? Have you noticed any changes, any movement?
Not
It's okay.
not really. No.
Okay. And how long have you been going to therapy?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. So that's just a little bit of time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you already kind of gave the wisdom it's going to take a while. How dedicated are you to continuing therapy?
Neutrally dedicated.
Neutrally dedicated. What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't see a reason to stop, but I also don't see a reason to keep going. So
Okay.
I'm just kind of here.
You're here, but you keep showing up.
Yeah, I don't really have a choice either.
But you're not fighting it. I don't hear that
No,
you're fighting the process.
That's why I'm neutrally
Okay.
dedicated. Because I won't fight it, but I also won't I'm not overly enjoying it.
Yeah. There's I don't know too many people that really enjoy therapy. I mean, there's people that really enjoy fixing things, and they like they like that individual time to talk to somebody, and they feel better when they get out of therapy. So there's people that enjoy it. I'm kind of teasing a little
I don't
bit.
think it's a joy, though. I don't think that's the right word for it. It's you see the result of how you've changed when you go, but it's not something you really ever want to do. You do it because you understand what the end result can be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. And they're lifers. There's people that have been in therapy for 30 years. They just want somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
They need somebody to kind of bounce their world off of. And I get that.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, it's like, my job is to make you fire me.
Yes, that is the goal. That is the goal, is to be fired in the end. And then I think, especially teens, they look at it like, what? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to offend you. And I'm like, it's not going to offend me. That means that's like the highest compliment I think you can get as a therapist, is to be no longer needed.
Yeah, I don't need you anymore. I'm good.
No, this is great.
That's great.
Now, let's talk a little bit about therapy. We've had a couple of sessions together. We haven't worked together too much, but you talk about how you're willing to stick it out. You're gonna,
and you came to this podcast?
yeah, right? You've done this.
Yeah.
You came here.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about, you've had therapy in the past where it was more, Zoom talk therapy, right? But that doesn't really work for you.
No.
So what kind of therapy works for you, or that you could see being beneficial?
I think in-person therapy works for me.
Yeah, what kind?
Well,
Do you like to sit in a couch and just
No.
No, exactly. So what kind of therapy?
artistic.
Art therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get to express myself not through words.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's important that people know there's so many different types of modalities and therapies out there.
Sure.
It's not just a couch, right? That's what everybody thinks it is.
Yeah. Well, TV does a really good job of using that old archetype of the psychotherapist.
Oh, it's so great. But, for Phoebe, being able to do different types of art therapy is working for her. It's giving her an outlet to express things where she can express more. And, being able to do that there's art therapy has such a wide range of what you can do. It's not it's not just drawing pictures, people. There's so much more to it. Like we talked in the previous podcast, she did a mask where she got to express two different sides of what people see and what you are and what that looks like without having to actually sit across from me and tell me, well, I feel this, I feel that. That's
Right.
you know what I mean?
This is what I'm hiding from everybody. You don't
Right.
have to talk about it.
You don't
just
have
kind
to say, "Oh, I'm hiding this," because there's a reason you're hiding it, right? You don't want to say it. So, if there's any type of you have friends which we've discussed, socially talking about it is something that's difficult for you. But what if a friend came to you and said, "I need help. I'm considering therapy." What would you say to them?
I would encourage them to
Yeah.
go to follow through with it. And I would tell them that when they start it, it's not going to be easy and it's going to feel weird and awkward and you're going to probably not like it, especially being a teenager. And you're going to think, oh, this is stupid and dumb. But I think that I'm going to tell them that it's important to keep going because I know that there's some thing in the future that will just click and work over time.
So what if you had a friend come and talk to you? It doesn't have to be about self-harm. It could be about anything. But, oftentimes our friends, when they find out we dealt with something, they come to us like we're now the expert on it, right?
Right.
But let's say you just have a friend that comes and talks to you. Because at
I
some
would
point you shared
say-
with them, what would you say to them?
I would say that with my friends, I'm actually a very neutral source to come talk to because I don't pick sides. So I feel like a lot of my friends come talk to me. And as long as it's nothing that triggers me, and I think they know not to talk about self-harm, then I will definitely help them and give them advice and talk to them. But I think that you shouldn't, I don't know if it's the best idea to just dump a bunch of self-harm talk on your friends because in personal experiences it doesn't go down well. But definitely if my friend came to me and wanted to talk to me about school drama or friends, something like that, I would definitely help them. And if it was a really serious situation, very bad, something really bad could happen to them, I would not turn them. I would never turn any of my friends away. I would, if they came to me to talk about something serious, I would definitely talk to them and help them and tell them everything that they want to hear. But it's just I don't think that people can rely on their friends in the long run because especially since you don't know what your friends are going through, they can't help you as much as you want them to. But if I was in a situation that was a dangerous situation with one of my friends, I would help them.
What process? How would you help them? Obviously talking.
I would tell them to, first I would ask them where they are and get their location. I would ask if they were driving or if they were at home alone or if they were with their parents. And then based on their answer, I would then react differently because if they're driving or home alone, I would ask them how they're, what they feel right now. I would ask what the problem is. I would then, if they then say that they are feeling like they're going to do something bad to themselves, I would ask them if they want me to come there to them in person. No matter what time it is, I could just drive to their house because that's more important, my friend's safety, than what time it is. And I would also check to see if I can help the problem from being far away from them. I don't have to go there, but if I do, I would. And I would also check if it's a emotional problem, if it's a family problem or just overwhelmed. Because I feel like sometimes I could relieve some of the stress if it's stress or something, or school if they're stressing about school. Just really talk to them and see if I can help in any way.
Do you want a job?
A job.
Yeah, we need to hire you.
We're hiring. Would you like a job?
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
great response.
That was really good. It was
Yeah.
really, really great. Gosh, that was a lot. You know, I will say, this whole process from Teen Talk, I am amazed at the levels of understanding and maturity that our teens have had.
Yep.
Like, I'm learning from them.
Yep.
Like, just so that all of you know, we're learning from you. Like, I know we're supposed to be the experts, but we are sitting here absorbing and learning from you guys. And it's really amazing. Really is.
I got nothing to add to that other than I agree. Phoebe, it's been amazing talking to you.
It has been. You said something that I thought was really important to touch base on. And that is for our last question on someone coming to you and triggering you. So if you could leave any message to friends who want to reach out, what is something they should be mindful of, when it comes to triggering someone who's already dealing with something so heavy?
I think they should be mindful of definitely who you're talking to, how triggering the thing that you're about to bring up is, if it's really worth it, if it's like a necessary situation to talk someone off the edge of something, then I wouldn't focus on who you're reaching out to. I would just reach out to someone, even if it's a friend struggling, because I know that the friend struggling would have gone through something like that. And I'm sure that if you guys are close enough friends that they will work it out with you. But definitely, I think that after you have that big conversation with them, you should touch back and maybe say, hey, I'm sorry that I didn't really put you first, or I realized that I might have made you feel like I put down what you're feeling. So you should touch back. But if it's a very dangerous situation and the only person you feel like you trust enough is your friend, then I think that you should reach out to them. But I think people should also be mindful of how drastic the situation is, and to think, is this worth bringing this up to this person who I know can get triggered by this? Or should I just put it aside and wait until I can talk to someone who is who's stable enough to give me the answer that I want?
Okay. Sometimes we don't always know how stable somebody is. I mean, you can have a rough estimate,
Yeah.
But let's say I'm your friend and I'm self-harming, and I know that you've gone through it because it was made public, and I know that I wanted to talk to you because nobody else knows about what I'm going through. Could I say something to you like, hey Phoebe, I need to talk to you about something really serious, and I know that it might trigger you, and I want to ask you in a comfortable way. I want to talk about this particular topic, and I need some help. Do you think a setup like that, talking with you, would put you in a place where you could talk about it?
Yeah, I think you should warn the person before, because it can be really triggering if they just start texting you and say, I want to talk about self-harm, and not warn them that you're going to be talking about a triggering topic.
Yeah.
I feel like it sounds a little bit weird, but we should put trigger warnings on texts and phone calls and in-person conversations so that nothing bad happens.
Yeah. Just giving you a little heads up, hey, I need to talk about something that's super hard.
I think this falls down into the area of, feeling validated and heard. It's not that you don't want to help your friends. You want to help them, but you also have to worry about your own self. You want to be able to make sure you're mindful of your own feelings and emotions, right? And so knowing that hey, this is the topic I'd like to discuss with you, and checking in, like you said.
Yeah, the whole
is important.
follow back.
Yeah, follow up. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Mr. Dalen.
Yeah, Miss Jessica. Phoebe, anything else that you'd like to add? Any parting comments? Any additional wisdom?
No.
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 You've been a joy to have on the podcast. Thank you
Yes.
so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. And again, this is Teen Talk, and we will see you next time. Do, do, do. Do, do, do.
We're still recording, Jessica. We can hear that.
I know. Thanks, Dave.
Bye, everybody.